Welcome everyone to our Whispers of Wisdom. I'm your host, Christine Renee, and I'm joined with Shantel Ochoa for this conversation on Reiki Fusion, balancing the masculine and feminine energies. And I have to say that I got on the call this morning with Shantel. We both recognize that we're both wearing red. We both have our hair braided. We're feeling freaking cute, unplanned.
Totally unplanned. That was awesome though.
I love it. And I literally, I saw this dress and I was like, and that is what I'm wearing today. Like, I have to go on live in this dress. So here I am we're both drinking coffees. And, I feel like there's so much to be had in this conversation. And when I was on Mount Kurama in Japan, where, here's the site of where Asui, quote unquote, received his enlightenment. The Asui Gongen is this kami giant cedar tree that fell, and it was supposed to be the representation of the divine masculine on the mountain. And that is supposedly where Asui was. Well, literally 10 feet from the tree is the divine feminine representation, being this fountain. There's this fountain, and it's at the top of the mountain, so it's not a spring that should be sprung being on the top of a mountain. And yet it's like, that's one of the reasons why it's so miraculous. Here's this flow of water at the top of a mountain, and it's the divine feminine. So, and we always hear he was in front of this tree, and it's like he was next to the fountain. There's a part of it that I feel like we only got half the story. And it was this trip that really made it click, going, no, he was sitting between the tree and the fountain. He was sitting with them both, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And what does that mean? Here we have the divine feminine in constant flow and constant giving. She's just offering so much of her constant flow of waters. And when we peel the layers back to what does Reiki mean, when you actually go to the kanji, it's something to the effect of the female shaman that flows water through her mouth to the earth, which grows the grains of rice that produces steam and feeds the mind, body, and spirit. Okay, right? And so you have this innate feminine energy that, through the lens of Reiki in the 1920s, 1930s, has a very masculine overtone to it, because it is so innately feminine that the masculine had to bring in the structure. Mm-hmm. That's what it feels like. Mm-hmm. The masculine had to bring in the structure to say, here are the hand positions, here's the rules, here's what we're going to do, here's the chants, here's the trainings, here's A, B, and C, and X, Y, and Z. And the energy herself feels feminine. And so this is kind of what I want to talk about today, is that it's both. And what does that mean for our practices? What does it mean for us as practitioners? And how does it feel in our bodies to experience that dichotomy?
Yes. Yeah. I think that it's so powerful because we do need to feel into the dichotomy of both sides, right? And I find it interesting because when I do Reiki, when I'm in a session, I always start, well, I don't always start, but I will wrap around one side in the masculine energy and come around to the feminine energy. Because when you work on both sides, you feel the difference in the person and their energetic field. You can't ignore one without the other, right? It's like you can't massage one half of your body and ignore the other half. We have to bring in that balance. So I love that you're bringing this up, because I think it can become very masculine when we're just following the system itself versus our intuition and being in flow with how Reiki is showing up for us in our sessions with ourselves and with others. And we can really be in the structure of what we need to do, and at the same time in the flow with the feminine energy to help us just really be in that beautiful experience of it.
Yeah. Well, and I want to ask you a question. I want to go back.
Uh-huh.
The way you do sessions, does that mean that you start on the left side of the body, or do you start on the right side? Do you start on the right for the masculine?
I actually listen to my intuition. So if I'm guided to the left, I do. If I'm guided to the right. But a lot of times I do find it is more the right side. It's going to be more the masculine. But I do make sure both sides are done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. Because I mean, I think that even that in and of itself is going like, yeah, we have a rule book that says that we're supposed to, quote unquote, from a traditional perspective, start
Hmm.
at the head in certain hand positions and move down the body. And I've always, for as long as I can remember, go say kind of like, fuck that. Like, I'm not doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it didn't feel right to me. It never has. Starting at my head has always made me feel really out of body and ungrounded and um, just not fully present. And
Yeah.
and so I've always started at the hara, at your belly button area, and then moved down to root chakra and work my way up. Like I've always done it that way. I've trained my students to do it that way. And with the caveat of if that doesn't feel right for you, here are the traditional, feel into both, do what feels right to you. Right. And I think that for me is the balance of the masculine and the feminine of saying, look, here's what the intention behind all of this was, and trust your own intuition, aka your feminine flow of what feels right to you in this moment with this client, with your body, whatever who you're working on, and trust that process because the energy itself is in balance. The energy itself is very, it's flow, it's wants to show up. And so if we dropped the rule book of how it's supposed to be and trust it's leading me to exactly where I need to be, maybe the hand positions are really just freaking training wheels. Maybe that the symbols are training wheels. Maybe there's all of this structure that's been put in place to kind of make it foolproof, to make it easy. But when do we let the training wheels off and just dance with Reiki?
Yeah. And I agree with that. It actually in my workbook it does when I'm doing level one, because actually I had level one on Saturday. So you are reminding me of, a section in there where it says just that we are Reiki and to just be Reiki. And so these symbols are kind of like training wheels, so to speak. You use them until you are so confident that you are just Reiki. You walk in, you're in the bubble of Reiki, you exude Reiki, you just are the expansive energy of it always. So for me, I'm just at a place of my intention is wherever I go, it's with me. I just am. Right. And so instead of feeling like I got to turn it on or feeling like I got to line up, I got to call in, I just always feel like I'm in this protective energy. And there are things that I do to make sure I am protected on a regular basis, but I'm not always in that conscious awareness, like I am protected. I just know that I am. And when people feel things around me, I'm like, yeah, it's Reiki. It's just Reiki, right? Instead of feeling like we have to be so structured.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Like I feel like when you start to live a Reiki lifestyle, you feel that more and more that it's just showing up for me. It's not something that has to be done in this really tight container of a session. I mean, it absolutely can. And that's beautiful in and of itself. I love Reiki sessions. And I feel like when the original Reiki development, this was about the personal practice of coming into flow with your kokoro. And I love that word because it's kind of, it has the, in the translation of balancing the heart mind. And in a way that feels like balancing the feminine masculine, right? And so if we are coming into balance, these, and I think this is where I get frustrated, and I think a lot of people get frustrated, is that we have a lot of conversations these days on the divine feminine and the sacred masculine. And in that conversation, we forget that we each as individuals contain and hold both. That one isn't better than the other, that they're about this fusion. It's about this continuation of coming together. And so, how does it feel to recognize within myself, this is my masculine energy and this is my feminine energy. And are they matured? Meaning, does your feminine feel safe to fully express and to flow and to have that wildness about her? And does your internal masculine feel like it's there to have the logical, have the structure, have the boundaries put in place? And is it developed within you? Right? Because the development within you then provides a mature being ready to live life to its fullness, right? And to have relationship with others, knowing that we're balanced within, right?
Yeah. That's coming to center point, right? When we are in balance of both sides. And we know when we're balanced on both sides and when we're out of balance and when we are, and I think this is kind of what we're talking about prior to getting on, is when we aren't in balance, one side or the other is going to dominate our decision making, our life, our reactions, our responses. So it's knowing when we're in balance, we can be the one that needs the structure when we need it, but we can be in flow and receive. And I think with like being in flow with the feminine is it is so hard for people to receive. You know, especially now, we are go, go, go all the time. We're running very masculine. Families are disrupted with divorce and separation and all these different things. So the mothers typically take on both roles, you know, and all of that. So women in general are becoming very masculine in their energy because they're having to work and work the home and do the children and all the things. And so as women, it's really difficult to sit back and to receive until you get to say, you know what, I need to be in balance with myself. And what does this look like? And it's going to look like different for each one of us. But really, it's being in balance. I need to go out and earn and do what I need to do. But when I'm home, I get to receive. I get to be the one that can come home and be in my soft place. My home gets to be my sanctuary. And I feel like when we can create that sacred space within our home, both the masculine and the feminine can show up.
Yeah. And I feel like it's so individualistic too, right? Like we need to have some space to develop self-awareness practices. Like,
Yes.
right? Because I feel like when I went to Japan the first time, holy crap, I was living 95% my masculine. I didn't even know what the feminine was. Like, I knew she was out there in there somewhere, but like she was not present at all because my life didn't allow her to feel safe enough to have the time and appreciation to be expressed. Right. And and then this time it was a completely different energy. I think I live predominantly from a very feminine place of flow and going, what do I feel good about doing today? How do I want to show up in my fullness today and express myself? And do I need some structure? Like I literally came home and it was so funny because it's like I feel so in flow that I started doing my time tracker again. And a time tracker is something that I usually give our beginner students in Soul Rising to kind of identify where they are spending time and in which category of life, whether that's in your spirituality, your sexuality, your home environment, your partnership, like whatever it may be. Like there's like 10 different categories. But it's because I'm so like right now, I feel so in flow. I needed a masculine element to come in to show me the structure, to have this logical aspect in what I was doing because it felt supportive to give me a container, right? Of my time, right? To just and to have that level of self-awareness of where I was spending my time so I wouldn't spiral off too much in one direction and really kind of help me hold the idea of balance, right? And so I feel like there are there is this recognition. I think right now in our culture there's this recognition that women are kind of fed up of being in that masculine role. Like we don't want to hold it all. And so there's a ginormous swing into one direction of like doing the divine feminine work, which is amazing. And part of it should be like I hate shitting on people. Like I take that back. I feel like the most beautiful way to help hone in on your divine feminine is the appreciation of both within. And if we don't have an internal masculine energy within ourselves that say, I'm not available for this, I am available for that, that's really setting up that linear structure and boundaries. If we can't express what our boundaries are, that's when things get that can be taken advantage of, or that can be where things go afoul, is that in that divine feminine space of like, I'm in my full divine feminine energy and that's all there is for me, there's also, I'm fully receiving. I'm receiving everything that everyone could possibly send to me without any boundaries, without any restriction. And we become this full receptive being, which is then out of balance.
Mhm.
Right. And so I think that's where there's a huge amount of caution of like, going fully in your feminine can feel amazing and wild and free. And yet, what about our own boundaries that we need to create within ourselves of going, I'm not available for this practice. This makes me feel uncomfortable. Therefore, I'm going to use my voice, my inner masculine voice, my solar plexus power to say, I'm not available for this. This is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. And from that point of like going from a very masculine energy within myself, swinging over into the feminine and working my way into this balance has been a lesson in and onto itself. And where is the Reiki thread within it all? Right? Like, I feel like when I can go into the structure of a session, here's a session, there's a door, there's a place, there's a table, there's music, right? That actual environment provides a sanctuary, a space that can hold it. So there's the masculine, right? And
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
When you said like the container, that brought in such a great visual of the masculine is the container. That's the structure, as you're saying, the room, the building, the place. The energy is the feminine. That's the flow that was within the container. And so that brings in such a great balance because you can be all flowy and feminine within it, but those boundaries, those that container is going to give you the structure that you need so you can bring in both the masculine and the feminine. Because if we are too much in our feminine, then it's very difficult to achieve a lot, right? Because you need the structure of the masculine to set the goals, to be structured, to be focused on all the details. That's not feminine energy. The feminine energy is to receive and to create and to let it be, right? We're manifesting, we put it out in the universe and we sit and let it come to us and flow. It's the structure that then lets us go out and do all of the work for it. So when we find that balance, like even for me, I always visualize and I like tell my students and clients, like it's like the pendulum swinging, right? Where are you within your two energies? Are you way over here swinging on your masculine? Or are you way over here swinging in your feminine? When it comes to that center point and it drops in, that's when you know you are fully balanced. But you can visually see where you are, even if you need to use an actual pendulum to do that energy, you can see where your energy is holding up at. And then you can do the work. Okay, I need to tune into her or I need to tune into him, the sides of ourselves. And but that visual was really powerful right there because I was like, yes, that's exactly what it is. We need the structures, but we also need to be in our feminine. And I know like with Usui Reiki, the lineage is what, 103 years now?
Yeah. So
But really, Reiki has been here since the beginning of time. Like it is literally the life force energy of all things on our planet, all living things. So this is one structure of Reiki and one teaching, one lineage, but it is all things. We are Reiki. We are, divine energy. We are source energy, and that's what it all comes from. Nature, animism, all of it. It's all connected. We're all connected to everything. It's a universal law of one that has this Reiki energy flowing through us. We're
yeah.
just learning through the structure of Usui Reiki.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, I love it. We can end the conversation here. No, I'm kidding. right? Like I think that's so important to reflect on. Like I feel like
With
that is,
me,
yeah, go
let
ahead.
me just ask you this real fast. So with the fountain, with the water and the tree, do they honor the water at all? Or is that just it's just there?
It's hard to say because I feel like a lot of it's like, oh, it's just there. Like I think I missed it. I missed the point of it all the first Japan trip. Like I didn't get it. Like it didn't make any sense. Like it was like, here's this tree, it fell down, it's super important to the Reiki world. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like nothing, none of it landed. And and on this trip, I was like, oh, wait, hold up. Let me make sure I got this. This tree is supposed to be the divine masculine, and it fell over and it took out a temple, and literally trees in the fountain 10 feet away are completely undisturbed.
Mm.
And this should feel really significant. Like
That should, right? The symbolism of it should feel
feel
very
really
significant.
significant. And here's this fountain. And there's fountains all over the mountain. There's a water aspect everywhere. Like I think that's part of every single sacred space has water. And there's a ritual of washing, like taking the scoop and washing your hands. I think it's left, right, left, and then you sip and you drink some of the water. And so these stations of fountains are all over the mountain, especially at these temples. And a lot of the temples are for masculine energy. So let's take Mao Sen, who his his energy is like a force, like literally a force. Like everything is these beautiful trees, and here's this temple, and behind it are these massive boulders. And the folklore or the myth story of Mao Sen is that he came in to Earth on like this asteroid that like blew up the Earth, and this is the point of creation, is like his earthiness. And so you have all these ginormous boulders everywhere behind the temple. And Mao Sen is this deity of groundedness. He's the deity of the earth. And at his temple, there's a fountain. And the fountain is the most fountainiest of fountains, meaning it's perfect. The stream of water, when there is no wind, comes perfect connection with the pool without any ripples. It looks like it's one constant flow, like a pitcher. Like you can't tell if it's flowing or not. It looks like it's standstill. And it's like the how masculine this temple is balanced by the perfection of this perfect flowing water. And you can't perfect it anymore. I have like no idea how, like there's no engineering, like that's just the way it is, right? And so there's a lot of spaces where the feminine is respected, but it's in this flow of water. And so it's interesting as you have a temple for Mao Sen, and then you go up the mountain a little bit, and you have a temple for Fudamyo, which is like this really scary deity, like who's ready to like chop things up and burn things away and like make you see your shit and all the things. Like I love Fudo, like he's great to help you get into the light. And so he's got a space. And then you go up further to the mountain, you have that space where you see all the roots, and that's where these trees and the fountain are. And it feels more feminine up there, like in this in between space. And then you get to the very top of the mountain. And this is kind of where the deity of Bishmontan is. Bishmontan is the deity who is like more of a cosmic being. And so it's like you travel up and you have this masculine and then like somewhat feminine energy in the middle where the tree and the fountain are. And then at the top you have more of this masculine energy, and it's cosmic, right? And there's the container for the feminine, right?
Mm.
So here's the thing, it's like you have masculine energy, which is Mao Sen, then the middle, which, gosh, freaking put a Kanan statue there. Like, I'm like, come on, where's her temple? Like, we have temples for these other dudes, and I'm like, and I want one for her. and then and then at the main temple complex you have, it's the top, it's like Bishmontan is definitely represented there, but then you have the three deities and it's like the trinity, and the trinity of the energy itself is Santen, which is like really the best way to describe it is like Holy Spirit, right? It's the all that is, it has no image, right? And so you have all of it happening on Mount Kurama, which is really what I'm going to be kind of getting more into in the Reiki Fusion class. Like, I believe in balance. I believe in honoring our history and understanding the culture in which Reiki was born. And will be the first one to say that after this trip in particular, I'm not a Buddhist. Like, and even though that Reiki has a Buddhist foundation, it is not. It is not Buddhism. And whether or not you care about these deities, it doesn't matter for your practice. It matters that you understand the reason why. So we went up to Mount Kurama, which I'll be doing a webinar on, and understand what was his motivation, and to understand the cultural context, and to know we live in a different cultural context. The Reiki has developed and evolved over the last 100+ years to really bring in more balance than the original could offer. And it gave me much more gratitude. Like, the more I sit with it, I'm like, I'm in a much more gratitude space for Takata, because she did strip away a lot of the masculine practices that had been founded in Buddhism. And her voice was known. Like, she wasn't even supposed to be freaking taught. Like, they were like, you're too American. You're too American for Reiki. And she was denied. And she got a doctor to write her a letter of recommendation that she should be trained. And,
Oh, that's crazy. I
and
didn't
it
know that.
and it's like was a personal favor between this doctor to keep positive, healthy relations between him and this clinic, this Reiki clinic, right? Like, you need to take this person on, or I might not send more patients to you. Like, it's kind of like the undertone, right?
Mhm.
And so, in the beginning, it was like they tolerated her. They didn't want her, they tolerated her because she was so American and outspoken and would ask questions. And that's not okay for women to do in Japan. You don't
Yeah.
speak up. You don't speak
Well,
up.
even back then in America, still women weren't voicing a lot. So for her to come forward that way,
Yeah.
to like that was her intermission, is like, no, this needs to come over. This needs to travel over into America. We need to teach this. And I do for myself have, I believe all healing methods and mythology, all of it. It is for the people, all the people, right? I know that you get the chakras here, you get, all these different healing modalities, but really it's just us all figuring out the human body and our energetic body. And instead of dividing everything, we need to bring it all together. And that's why there are so many layers with Reiki now. It's like you can have the shamanism, you can have the chakra system, you can bring in the meridians, you can bring in the energy. Like all of it is so encompassing because we're just trying to figure out this human vessel, and it's showing up in different cultures. And the more that we communicate and teach and learn, the more we get to understand our body and how to work with it, how to heal it,
Yeah.
how not to have mental breakdowns, how not to have emotional breakdowns, how not to let our body become diseased, right? And release past traumas. And this all happens because we are working with each one in its like finite teachings. And it's like this ability to say, I see this and I see this, and I can pull it all together in one method, in one healing session. And so for me, it's like, yes, all the teachers that are out there that have brought it forward, we're just in evolution. We're taking it and we're evolving as we're meant to right now.
Yeah.
And we are standing in our feminine energy, and we have been now for what, well,
Over a
aware
century.
for a few years, but we're in the age of Aquarius. We are in the feminine energy. Masculine energy has shifted out. That's why systems are collapsing. We are now rising up in this energy because we've been out of balance on our planet for so long.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So know that if you are wanting to deep dive into this topic, this is going to be kind of how and why I teach Reiki Fusion, which is that honoring of the tradition and understanding how we're bringing it forward into current day and into the future. And so that we are going to be doing a review. We're going to be diving into deeper on what was happening in Mount Kurama and the history. Like part of this course, you'll receive, I think I have over 4 hours of history training. Like I do the deep dive. Like I really want everyone to understand why and how it transformed over the years to present day. And then we really get into, I'm going to be including the Eastern Reiki practices, self-attunements, chanting, how to invoke some of the powers of these deities on Mount Kurama, like some of these Eastern Reiki practices that from from traditional Reiki that may not even be taught very often anymore. So I'm going to be including that. So if that is something that you're called to do, if that is a practice that you want to help heal your kokoro with, it's available. And to understand that, oh my gosh, I think this is the thing. Like when I'm in practice of doing these practices with these spiritual masters, I could feel it. I could feel all of it. And it felt amazing to be in the chants, to be in the practice, to hear the prayers and all of the things. And then step back and go, that was amazing. And where are the female voices? Where are the female leaders here? Like I had that dissonance of like, this is amazing and I love it. And there's something missing. And so I want to bring forward like that, like, yes, you can feel it. You can feel all of this power and energy by doing these practices. And the part that I was missing, I want to also offer, right? And so we're going to be having the more modern day trainings of how do you mix modalities? How can you do this in an ethical way? How can you say Reiki to your life and beyond a session? Like how can you flow with Reiki and that divine feminine aspect, right? And so we're going to be moving through the Eastern and the Western. We're going to be moving through the masculine and the feminine. We're going to be moving through the symbols and attunements and how to do and how to offer those and give attunements and become the teacher and really recognize where in my life can I continue to expand in my Reiki practice. So all of it's going to be there in a real juicy way so that you can come through this 6-week process and stand in your truth as I am a Reiki teacher. I am someone who has wisdom from the Reiki, from both my trainings, hello masculine, and from my own internal sense of self, my own internal sense of this is what is true for me. This is what I want to share. This is what is flowing and expansive in my energy today. And be you. And I think this is where I oftentimes confuse students and the fact that whether you're taking our soul rising training or you're taking my Reiki masters, I always end with what feels good for you. You don't have to do it my way. There's nothing in any of this that says you must teach like X, Y, and Z. There is an invitation to go, what does it look like for you to practice? What does it look like for you to be in your authenticity and still remain within ethical boundaries and practice the way you want to practice and show up the way you want to show up? And what does that look like? So if you don't like a certain aspect of how I teach, I'm not taking offense to it. I'm like, cool, great. What does that mean to you? How do you want to take that? I don't like that piece and go, I'm going to do it my way and still come back to when you teach, how can you give it, still honor the tradition? How can you still honor the culture in which it was born, even if you don't 100% disagree with it, like agree with it, right? Like I'm not a Buddhist, and yet I will teach the Buddhism cultural perspective of these practices because it's innately where Japanese is born out of, and it's important to understand that piece. But am I a Buddhist? No.
Yeah. I think it's important too for this to be coming out now because, let's just be honest, the majority of Reiki practitioners and healing like is women. It's women. And so we do need to stand up and recognize our own energy and what we're bringing to the table, what we have to offer. And so it's not, for me, it's not like, okay, men step aside. No, it is, we need to bring in balance now. And we are showing up in our feminine energy and we are saying we do have power, we do have a voice, we do have, like, if they would have been doing the chanting and had the women singing their chants, bringing in that feminine voice, what a beautiful balance that would have brought in, instead of it all just being the chants of the men, right? But having this woman in the background or even, up front and center singing and chanting, like I just feel that day is coming. That day will rise on this planet, but right now we are the ones, we are marching forward. We are the ones we are on the line. We are standing, our toes are on the line right now and we're doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I love that reminder, because I have been in spaces where I have taught my students, and because I'm giving them permission to do it different, show up differently. And I once had the student, she was one of my apprentices, and she had taken all my Reiki trainings. And she goes, when I do Reiki, my hands want to do this. And it was big, full arm swings. And she was like, and I want to use my voice like this. And she would sing. And I'm like, great. Like I was like, do it that way. Because you know what? I feel it. You are 5 feet away from me. I'm lying on the table and you're 5 feet away from me. And I can feel energy throughout my whole entire body being illuminated and that aligning process happening. And so if that is through strange arm movements and your voice, cool. I have no problem with that. So, and I think that's where we need to also have that permission to like let it flow the way it wants to flow. And for me, I think in my most authentic form of Reiki, it's always with light language. Like I'm always channeling some bizarre yet beautiful language. And when I let it flow out of my mouth and I move my hands the way they want to move, it's powerful. And so with that, I'm not really I'm not really, I don't know, like I feel like that's amazing and beautiful. And I don't want to deny myself nor deny any of my students the possibility of their fullest expression with Reiki energy. Reiki,
Yeah.
that is what Reiki like has the possibility to do, is to allow us to open completely and fully to our spiritual gifts and our innate beautiful nature with this energy. Why would we deny that?
Yeah. It does it in you. Each session should feel different, right? Because we are not working a system, we're working with the energy body on the table. So, whoever it is that you're working with, that's how we should flow because we're connecting with that person's energy, which opens us up, right? So, if it is for one person, big and flowy arms, and now you're chanting or you're doing light language or whatever, and then you can come in and be structured because that person's energy is feeling structured. And now I feel like I need to go from head to toe, which is very rare for me. But if that person's energy feels like that, that's where I'm going to go. But if I come and it's like, oh my gosh, I am going to be dancing all over your body and like way up here and way down there. Yes, I want to come in and be in that flow. And when there are people in, like, say, like a couple, or I have friends that come and there's someone in there and they're just like, oh my gosh, it's like a dance. Like your arms are like in a dance. And it's like, that's exactly what it should feel like. Like you are dancing with the energy, you're moving and flow with it. Your eyes are closed, you're in your third eye, everything is open, heart is open, expansion is there. That is exactly what's being offered. But when we want to be in that, when we find ourselves in the masculine, that's when you're like this. And I think that's a really easy way for people to see where they are. Are you flowy with your energy or do you feel very structured? And if you are structured, does that feel right for you? Does that feel good? Or do you feel like you're listening to somebody else's way of doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we will continue. We'll continue in the conversation. We'll continue in training and showing up in our voices of and permission that you too can find your balance of flow. Because I feel like when we are in that balance, when we have a mature masculine and feminine within, we are at our most powerful. We are at our most powerful in our voice and in our bodies, and knowing what we're available for and what we're not available for. We're just it just feels absolutely amazing to have that internal compass and have Reiki flow with us in that. And so thank you all for joining us in the conversation today, for taking time out of your day to listen. And until next time, may the whispers of wisdom rise from within.